Hello， 大家好，我是 Terry。今天我来到温哥华，很开心可以请到我的一个 mentor 来跟我一起聊天。那这次聊天呢，我们聊了关于他自己的经验，是如何从电机系转到软体工程的，还有北美大公司、小公司的选择，还有大家最常问我的，就是要怎么样成为一名软体工程师，假如你完全没有相关的背景。另外，我们聊了一下要怎么样从资深工程师再继续往上走，还有他在面试工程师的时候会考虑的技术方面之外的特质。最后聊了一下他自己是怎么样去带领一个团队，并且提升团队的效率。所以不管你是想进入这一行，或是已经在这一行待了一段时间了，想要提升自己 coding 之外的能力，我觉得看完这一集一定可以学到很多东西。所以记得一定要先帮我点个赞。那这整集影片我有放上中英文的字幕，因为 Stan 不会讲普通话，所以我们只能用英文沟通。所以酸民不要在那边说我假装 ABC 了，我本来就不是 ABC， 我是 DTF。Just kidding.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Terry, and today we have a very special guest, Stan Chen. Stan is a very strong engineering leader, my mentor, and is also a very good friend of mine. Right now, he's an advisor for many companies, right?
Yeah, just a couple.
Yeah, especially I think he does a lot of like product roadmap, technology, and philosophy, and a bunch of other things. Yeah, and I just feel very honored to have him today. So Stan, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself to begin with?
Oh, that's a wide open question. Back in 1985. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, hi guys. So I was born in Hong Kong. My family moved over here when I was 12 years old.
Oh, and Stan also went to Waterloo.
Oh yeah, I also went to Waterloo.
It's the best engineering school in Canada.
You only say that because you're from Waterloo. So.
For those who don't know, Waterloo is like Stanford in the US, except they have co-op.
We do have a very good internship program. It's actually one of the most important things actually when you're going through like university, to be able to see different companies. Like we did what I did 6 different work terms. So did you, right? Yeah. So like it was amazing. Like just being able to come out with that understanding, saying that I have seen how 6 different company works, and like knowing what to expect, like makes interview as well as getting your job so much easier. But yeah, anyway, so I went through schooling in Toronto and Waterloo, and then also eventually got out as a studying electrical mechanical engineering at a program called mechatronics engineering. So basically did a bunch of automation, robotics, went into manufacturing automation, so doing PLC, and like looking and studying and like trying to improve like manufacturing processes with automation. And I got an opportunity over at CBS Radio, like from a friend, and I just basically said that why not try it, like got over there and actually started my career in software. And then from there I moved over to San Francisco and basically start going into startup and like did a lot of different things, like mess up a lot of things, and also learned a lot. So ended up like really enjoying that kind of career, that kind of industry. So have been there since, and right now I'm just like focusing on building startups and like helping to build teams and like build products kind of thing. So
I see. So you mentioned you went from mechatronics engineering to software engineering, which is quite a transition, I think. I imagine it's very different, right? Mechatronics is, you're building robotics and more hardware, right? Like you're not doing so much of software. Like, did you find it difficult, or was it hard to transition?
No, that's the funny thing. For us, like mechatronics engineering, we were the first class in there. So it consists of...
you were the first...
Yeah, we were the guinea pigs.
Oh,
like, to be honest, like if you ask like different professors, is going to tell you different things. Like one would say that like this is about building robots, like Gundams. Yeah, that's why I love. Right? Or another one is kind of like, no, this is all about like automation, like manufacturing, assembly line and whatnot. So there's a lot of different things. There's a lot of uncertainty, and one of the most interesting thing is that as we were going through the program. the mindset of electrical engineering and the mindset of mechanical engineering is very, very different. When you're talking about electrical, a lot of theories actually come in very specific things. Like you're talking about all mathematical equations, like proving things from one thing to another. So a lot of math is involved. When you get into mechanical engineering, there is a lot of looking up charts, hands-on experience, like a lot of things that you will do, and then say that I will multiply this by 5 for safety factors, kind of thing. So basically, you do all the specific calculation and say that, yeah, we're just going to bump it up like 5 times. It's going to be safe enough, kind of thing. It's kind of like that. So like the mentality changes already happens in there. We did also do like a bit of programming during that time, but it's very low level. We did real-time operating system kind of thing. All of these things actually help you actually realize that you need to think differently in different industry, but more importantly, also during co-op, you also know that majority of the time that whatever you study, it's not going to directly apply to what you're going to be working on anyway. So being flexible is like actually the name of the game. So
yeah, I think that's a really good point because I did management engineering at Waterloo, and we did a little bit of programming as well. It was a lot of theories on stats and understanding how to optimize production plan and all that stuff.
Oh, I mean, like how much of those work do you, like those studies and those projects and those programs that you learn actually apply to your everyday work nowadays?
Not really.
Exactly.
But I think school is really good in a way that it helps you prepare for the industry. And I think it gives you the opportunity to learn how to solve problems. And I think that's the training where the school provides.
Exactly.
That's the value.
It's kind of like how can I say it? Don't take things word for it. Like it's not about the practice of like the specific processes that you went through or courses that you went through, but the practice of like how you figure out problems and research answers and making decisions that is more important, because that's what you're going to end up doing. Well, I think that's what you end up doing anyway.
那我们先暂停一下，今天这集影片呢是由 Surfshark VPN 赞助。VPN 是什么呢？不重要，重要的是它提供你2个最主要的功能。第一个就是保护你的隐私，不管你是出国旅游或者在外面使用 WiFi， 其实你上网看东西如果没有用 VPN 的话，别人是知道你在看什么的。没错，我都知道你在看什么。或是你去登入一些有可能泄露你个人资讯的网站，像是网络银行，都有可能导致你的隐私被拿去卖掉，甚至一些个资会流出去的情况。所以 VPN 就像保险套一样，你在外面不安全的情况下做重要的事情的时候，可以确保保护你的安全。另外一个 VPN 的功能呢，就是翻墙。翻墙这种东西就不用多说了。如果你活在一个没有 YouTube、没有 Google 的国家 ，VPN 就是你最好的解药。不仅可以让你订阅观看泰瑞的频道，追踪我的 Instagram， 还可以解锁全部 Google 的功能。那我自己用 VPN 最主要的原因就是可以解锁 Netflix 在美国看不到的电视剧。很多电视剧像是 Brooklyn Nine-Nine、The Office， 在美国这边是没办法看的。所以，假如你今天想要看 Netflix 上面一些只有北美或是其他地区有上的电视剧或是电影，只要打开 Surfshark VPN 就可以了。那现在用我的注册连结就可以享有17折的优惠，还有免费3个月的 VPN 可以用。我会把连结还有我的专属注册码放在影片底下的资讯栏，大家可以自己去看。
Okay, switching gear, I think I was just looking at your LinkedIn and you work at companies like Google before and also smaller companies. And I'm curious, like from your perspective, what's the difference between like smaller companies like startups and versus like Google, and why do you like to work at startups so much?
Very good question. And actually, I can do a sales pitch for Waterloo internship program, because the whole thing is that like during my internship programs, like the different internship, I get to see different companies, and it's just amazing. Like you can actually understand, like do 4 months over at a manufacturing plant, 4 months over at a giant corporation, 4 months at a startup kind of thing. And you get to see so much about like people interaction and like corporate structure and how things work. For one thing, like it's structure. Like you get into a big company, someone like Google or someplace like Microsoft, you are going to be doing something relatively specific. A lot of times your goals and as well as like your targets that you're trying to hit is very well put together. You don't have to worry about basically anything else. Like it's kind of like if you're a chef, going to a big company is that you walk in and you say that I'm cooking this dish, like this dish, and people are telling you that, like asking for you for this dish. everything is there. Like all your utensils, all the equipment, you don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah.
You go in, cook that stuff.
Yeah.
Even the raw material is prepared for you, chop for you or whatever. You just pour, cook, and then you're done.
Yeah.
Right? You go into a startup, they say that you're cooking for this dish. You'll be saying that, so where is the stove? Oh, we don't have one. You may have to figure that out.
You have to buy the stove, buy the utensils, and
exactly
do everything yourself.
But at the same time, you also got the flexibility. So like it's two type of person now. One type is that you go in, they say that, there's no stove, there's no nothing, I can't do this. The other one is like, there is no stove, there is no kitchen, I can do whatever I want. Like it's kind of like whatever your personality actually gets you to look at this, like how you react to these kind of things. No structure, is it something that you're happy about or something that you're not, right? Versus like no structure, like are you going to like get your hands dirty and do all the other stuff, or do you enjoy actually saying that I want to focus and building the things that I want to build, like specifically that part amazingly? That's where the preferences, or like that's how the bigger companies versus smaller companies work.
I see. Because you work at a couple of different startups, and then some of them were acquired, and you definitely were part of those acquisition, right? Seeing company grow from 0 to something, and then they got acquired eventually. And I assume that you probably have reached some level of financial freedom, and money isn't really a constraint anymore. Why do you still work?
I work because I want to, and I want to say that like we should all work because we want to, if we are given the opportunity to do so. I would say you and I are very lucky on this. Like we are blessed with like very clear minds. We are blessed with good health, right? We can actually produce and function. We got into a relatively good school and got out with somewhat of good experiences out in our industry, where our profession is actually making a lot of money, right? We are not too worried about money at all, right? Not much financial burden and everything. Why do I still work? Is because I enjoy it. Like I nowadays I work because, well, sometimes I tell people I'm bored, therefore I work. Like it's kind of like when I'm able to advise a company when they bring up questions and problems to me, it's kind of like, oh, I haven't solved this before.
I see.
Or hey, your idea is amazing. What you're trying to do to the world is amazing, right? Like let me help to give you some ideas about what I failed on, and trust me, I failed on a lot of things. And you know what? Like being able to do that gives me a lot of joy. So it's kind of like, I wouldn't say that I'm quite like crazy well off and whatnot, but I would say that
You're comfortable.
I'm comfortable to be able to enjoy my life, and like the money, I think the money when it gets to a certain point, like it gives you freedom to decide. It is just that. And once you get to that point, the question is like, for me, I don't need more for me to have more freedom to decide. Like you can actually work your butt off like for ages and accumulate a lot of wealth. But if you don't take the time to think about what you're happy doing, then I don't know, like it's going to be like quite like this is your strongest years, right? Like you have the wealth, you have the health, and you have time. You should really spend time thinking about like why you're doing work. So I do it nowadays because I enjoy it, and I do it because I want to help out on the teams and companies that actually are trying to do great things.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So.
Yeah, and that's why I have a lot of respect to use that. A lot of my audience are coming from a different background, right? And they want to do software engineering because the industry is booming. But they have no idea how to get started. So do you have any advice? What advice would you give them?
Really depending on how people learn, right? Like for example, I learn by doing.
Yeah.
So for me, when I started learning about software, it was because I wanted to do something. First professional experience, I was an intern at a silencer company, not the gun silencer, like HVAC silencer, so like just air conditioning silencers and stuff. And they have to cut things into trucks because they are huge and giant stuff. Right, so they hire interns to go through Excel and look at every single drawing and say that, okay, we're going to cut it this way, and then we can put it on a truck and send it out. And for me, after 2-3 weeks of doing that, I was like, there must be a better way of doing this. Like they taught me like how to actually figure out the formulas and like look at the stuff. These are all just rules. Then that becomes something that I wanted to do. So I basically say that I want to figure out how to automate this so that I don't have to actually do all these things. By the end of the work term, we finished building this so that a full day of work of just going through different Excel and checking all this stuff becomes half an hour of work for us. For me, it is about finding something interesting, something that I want to solve, and then say that here's the destination, here's where I am at now. How do I get there and make so many different mistakes and trying different routes and say that would this work, would this not work, this would not work, trying things and then eventually just inching towards that. But if there's research and whatnot, you can do that. Other ways that people can do there is general assembly. There's a lot of coding boot camps nowadays, tons of tutorials. The main thing though is that pick something you want to do. Otherwise it becomes very boring. For me at least, if there is a sense of achievement by the end of it, if you can do something that you will be very proud of, you will be like, hey, this saves my time for doing this or that. Or if you enjoy having your own website or whatnot, and say that now I can do this without paying other companies doing templates and stuff, and I can do it more specifically, right? If those are worthwhile to you, go for those things.
Something that you're passionate about.
Exactly. Right? That's for me at least.
Yeah, and I think that's how a lot of people got started. And the same for me, I was originally pretty interested in building apps, and my first project was a ride-sharing app, and that's how I learned PHP and learned how to build web app, and that's how I got into software engineering.
Were you doing this by yourself? Or
I was doing it with my roommate.
That's even more awesome. As you're doing this, if you can actually get partners doing this stuff, it doesn't matter if he or she was they know how to program or not. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't really matter. You just get to be able to bounce ideas off each other. That's the same as entrepreneurship. But why a lot of companies or a lot of startup entrepreneurs, they prefer to have a partner. It's not just because you complement each other in skills, but you actually also help each other in raising the morals of it. Because so many times it's kind of I don't feel like doing this.
It gets very tiring.
Exactly.
I still remember the days when we're just trying to figure out how to send an email from PHP script, and then we just send it up online and just copy the whole thing, and then it works. And
trust me, I still copy and paste nowadays.
We always do. That's what Stack Overflow is.
Exactly. Thank you, Stack Overflow.
好啦，那因为这集影片比较长，所以我把它分成2部分。下一部分呢，我们会聊到怎么样从资深工程师再继续往上走，还有他在面试工程师的时候会考虑的技术方面之外的特质。最后聊一下他自己是怎么样去带领一个团队，并且提升团队的效率。如果你喜欢这集的话，记得一定要帮我点个赞。那我们 Part 2见喽。